close, I don't think. And so we're going to begin our forum with two candidates for the Recorder of Deeds, Mr. Bednar and Mr. Blumenthal. As before, they drew lots, and Mr. Bednar will do our open. He has 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Doesn't sound like it.
Nope.
Hello?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. I appreciate the moderator, Ms. Tate Bradish, for doing this today, and the Daily Herald for cooperating to put this forum on. My name is Bob Bednar. I'm a candidate for Recorder of Deeds in the Republican primary on March 20th. I'm married to my lovely bride Joanne of 23 years and 1 day, and maybe about an hour. So yesterday was our anniversary. We have one daughter, Emily. She's 18. She's off at college studying vocal performance. I'm hoping she got that from me, but I'm not sure. She can really sing. I've been in banking for over 30 years. I've spent the last 20 plus being a mortgage producer, and 10 years before that as a bank controller. So I have 30 years of banking. My mortgage experience was very heavy. Oftentimes I had well over 100 transactions going on, so that meant a lot of buyers, a lot of sellers. They all had lawyers, they all had realtors. There's a lot of administration in being functional, and quite frankly, it was a very comfortable income until a couple of years ago, unfortunately. But that's the kind of administration you need in order to do this job. My Republican background, since 1992, I've been active with the Lake County Republican Party. I've been a committeeman in Shields Township. I've been a committeeman in Vernon Township the last 6 years. I just moved to Fremont Township in Mundelein last year. I'll be a committeeman there in the coming election. My past electoral experience, in 2003, I was elected to the Lake Bluff Park Board. I ran as a write-in candidate in Maiden, and I ran on a platform of we need to refinance all of the bond debt that the Park District had. We did that within a few months of my election, and it saved the taxpayers over $1 million in interest savings. I'd like to think that I'm the best candidate here because I'm not doing this like a politician would. I'm not doing this as somebody who's already ingrained in the fabric. I am not an elected official right now. I do not hold any specific offices of any note. I am the treasurer for the Lake County Republican Party, and I enjoy that. And I do think I'm the best candidate for this job. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blumenthal.
Thank you. My name is Marty Blumenthal. I'm an attorney and a CPA. I've been practicing for the past 30 years, not only in Lake County, but some of the collar counties as well. In those 30 years, in my practice that involves estate planning and real estate, I've used the recorder's office not only here in Lake County, but in other counties in the state and across the country. And I have to tell you that Lake County is far behind those of other counties. The technology has to be upgraded to ease user access, first and foremost, so you don't have to go to Waukegan every time you want to look up a particular document. And I plan to implement a system whereby all documents, not only the ones that could be e-filed now under certain circumstances, but deeds as well can be filed electronically. There are also technical aspects that some of the title companies would like to see implemented to prevent fraud, which has to do with the time it takes from the time a deed is recorded to the time it actually shows up on the public record, which means that a particular seller can defraud other people by selling the same property more than one time, which has happened. There are other things that I wish I had more time to explain to you about the technical workings of the Recorder of Deeds office, considering that most people don't even know that it exists. But it is an important office. It's mandated by statute, and it's important not only for deeds, but for other documents that are recorded, such as liens and judgments.
Thank you. Mr. Blumenthal will take the first question first. Do you feel political parties have a role in this office, and would the public be better served by having these offices be nonpartisan?
Like the clerk of the court's office, there is really no specific party ideal that goes into running the office. It is basically mandated by statute that you have to do certain things. Certain documents have to be treated certain ways, and the records have to be made available during certain hours, and et cetera. The only thing that I would bring into the office that's particularly conservative is the fiscal, just the fiscal aspect. It's to make it run as efficiently as possible. And I believe that by upgrading the technology, that fiscal efficiency can be implemented.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar.
I do think there's a place for political party in races such as this. Lake County is a very large jurisdiction. We're the third largest county in the state, not just in land mass, but in population. And if we were to put this on the municipal calendar, in a lot of areas, you get a voter turnout of 8%. You know, you're blending it in with things like park board, library board. Not that those boards are not important, but they just simply don't generate the voter turnout. Most people don't pay attention to when, you know, the April election is in the odd year. So I do think there's a good situation here that you have a competitive nature. You have 4 countywide offices right now. All 4 of those are contested on the Republican side. I think that's healthy for the voters. They hear several different candidates, several different viewpoints, several different perspectives.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar takes this question first. Should the office be combined with the county clerk's office?
It's a great question. It's something I've paid a lot of attention to in the last several months since I turned in my petitions and became a candidate. I formed a referendum committee made up of ordinary citizens from across the county. I have people in 16 different townships sitting on that committee. We've already had meetings. We've looked at a lot of facts and figures. 86 of the 102 counties in Illinois do not have a recorder of deeds. In some of those counties, in fairness, it never happened. They don't have a population exceeding 30,000. They were never required to create the job. However, in 2001, Tazewell County eliminated their recorder of deeds. They did it with over 65% saying yes, put it into the county clerk's office. McLean County, which is the greater Bloomington normal area, is doing it this year. The question is on their ballot. And it's also going on in Kendall County this year on their ballot. So I think there's cost savings. I believe this is an administrative function that would be blended very well into the clerk's office. So I'm a proponent for it.
Thank you, Mr. Bednar. Mr. Blumenthal.
I did consider that in the beginning when I decided to get into the race. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting with Laura Helander, the current county clerk, to ask her, first of all, if she would want additional duties as the clerk. And she said, yes, bring it on. The other aspect is that there is a legal question whether we can do it or not. I do have someone, an expert in this area, doing some research for me, because the statute pretty much says that counties over 60,000 have to have a recorder. So I'm not sure of the procedure, but that can't be done until it's made more efficient. So the clerk could just turn a key and start the recording function.
Thank you. Mr. Blumenthal. Is there technology that would improve the flow of business in the recorder's office and provide easier access to the public? What would the return on investments be?
There is technology. I've mentioned before that I've used a recorder of these offices across the country, and I have contacted them to find out who does their website and makes their online services work, and I have talked to some of those companies. And believe it or not, two of them were familiar with our Lake County system and knew the company that established it. And the cost would not be great. One company said it would probably be around $70,000–$80,000 to convert it to make it to do what I want to do. So compared to the $1 billion budget that it has now, that's a very small percentage, and it would pay for itself in no time with increased efficiency.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar.
I think the first thing that you have to do is consider 2 facts. Number one, is it economical to leave it the way it is? I want to see more input here from voters and from people out in the public. Why have the other counties gone ahead and eliminated this? And by the way, the counties that have put it on their ballot where they have blended these two offices, not one has ever turned back. You have Cook County talking about this too. Commissioner Fritchie down there, a Democrat, is proposing this in Cook County. He sees a $9 million savings in their county. Even if you only eliminated the recorder of deeds position, you're talking about a six-figure savings here, plus the perks, plus the fringes, plus all the other expenses associated with the office. This is an office, by the way, that pretty much works off of user fees. People come in and pay a fee when they go in and they record a document. So it is a cash cow to the county. Why not make it as efficient as possible? And there is technology out there to do it when we flip it over to the clerk's office.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar takes this next question first. And let me preface it by saying, assuming that there is still a recorder of deeds office, what changes in office operations before it gets folded into a different department do you propose to improve transparency and public access?
It's a great question, and it's something we've kicked around with our referendum committee. You have to break the office down into its components. There's a treasury function that happens here where when folks walk in, they're writing a check and they're getting their documents done. The title companies, the legal offices, they'll send somebody over there at the end of the day with whatever documents that they have. Title companies, you're going to have the high volume, so they're used to having a messenger come in at 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30 at the end of the day. When you look past the treasury functions, now you're talking about record storage and retrieval. So you're getting more into the back rooms of it. There's also the overhead, the management of personnel, the establishment of what's appropriate cover time, not just for counter, but also the technology where you're doing the actual documents that are being scanned and inputted into the system. So all of that would have to be integrated in steps. I think you break it down into about a half a dozen steps in a 2-year period.
Thank you. Mr. Blumenthal.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What changes in office operations do you propose to improve transparency and public access?
Okay. The first issue of public access is addressed by my drive for upgraded technology. So you can search for a document from your home computer or office computer without going into Waukegan. That's the first step. The second step is to have the high volume filers, such as the title companies, be able to record documents from their own offices. That would save certainly personnel time up at the recorder's office and fulfill the goal of getting those documents recorded as quickly as possible, so to protect the public from further sales on the same properties I mentioned and other aspects.
Thank you. Mr. Blumenthal, assuming that after one of the candidates takes office and the office still remains, what are your top 2 priorities for improvements that you would make in the office?
As I've said before, the top 2 priorities is upgrading the technology to increase public access to the records. And the other thing I would like to see on the website is financial information as to exactly how the recorder of deeds office operates in respect to fees coming in and expenditures going out. Right now, you have to make a FOIA, that's a Freedom of Information Act request to get that. I know because I tried when I first considered this office and was doing my research. I actually had to get the information from the county. I could not find it on the county's website nor on the recorder's website.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar.
When you look at the recorder's office, you have to actually break down what's happening there. According to the 2012 proposed budget for Lake County, the recorder estimates that they're going to record 122,000 documents this year. They have a full-time staff of 16. They have 1 part-timer. If you do the math, and you take the number of days in the year, and you take out the weekends, and you take out the holidays, you've roughly got 240 to 245 days a year you're open. If you figure out that you got 16 employees, hopefully working 8 hours a day, and you divide that into 122,000, you don't get very many documents recorded per day per employee. So there has to be some streamlining here that can be done. You have people dedicated to just simply doing the treasury components. You've got people dedicated to doing the recording functions. If there's a gear up that happens at the end of the day where large volumes are suddenly coming in the last 2 hours, then you gear up for that. You don't pay somebody for 6 hours to sit there waiting for work to be done.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar, have you noticed any fraud with mortgage deeds? What can be done at the Lake County level to help with foreclosures?
Biggest problem I've seen with deeds is occasionally, and it is rare. Overall, the deeds get recorded properly. Sometimes the document itself is infirm. Maybe the names are misspelled. Maybe the PIN number is wrong. The legal description is messed up, or a part of it's missing. In the mortgage business, when I would do refinances, I would find out whether my previous, loan officer that handled that client did their job correctly. And it would happen where you'd run into problems. You'd get the legal title, and you'd look at it, and the names aren't there. I've had closings where the title company or the attorneys recorded the deed in the wrong county. And everybody's got a certain PIN number system, and those counties, maybe they just don't communicate as well with each other to try to track those things down and get it to the right place. Maybe the wrong fee was recorded. So I dealt with a lot of this administratively, tracking things down. The errors are not so high that it's causing a problem. It's not the reason for an increase in any foreclosure level, by the way.
Thank you, Mr. Bednar. Mr. Blumenthal.
The foreclosure function is basically statutory. So in other words, if a lender comes into court and says a judge with basically as a checklist, I've done this, I've had this notice, et cetera, the judge is going to give the lender a judgment of foreclosure. Then there's a whole procedure after that. The recorder's function is just to record those documents that are already approved by the court. As a matter of fact, the statute says that the recorder is mandated, that means you have to do this, if it's a document that's suitable for recording. One underwriter complained to me from one of the title companies that sometimes the recorder sticks her nose in where it doesn't belong. In other words, if there's a document that's properly executed, it should be recorded. If there's a problem with that, then it's up to the courts to solve that problem.
Thank you. Okay. You guys have got to come on down with your questions because we're speeding along here. I'm going to give them one more bite at the apple in a little stall here, and if we don't have another question after this, they'll wrap with their summary. So here we go, Mr. Blumenthal first. Why are you the best candidate for the job?
I have the experience, I have the know-how, not only experience here in Lake County, but all across the state and the country. I know what has to be done. I know what the title companies and the banks have on their wish lists for the internal operations of the recorder here in Lake County. And it's my goal to implement those changes as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar.
Could you repeat the question, please?
I think it was just, I stuck it in the stack. Why are you the best candidate for the job?
I spent over 20 years in the mortgage industry. I tracked down a lot of deeds, and oftentimes the client knew they had a problem with their deed. Their lawyer hadn't figured it out. I pretty much already had a fee built into the mortgage, so whatever I did to help them straighten out their deed and their ownership was actually on me, and probably a lot cheaper than hiring an attorney. You don't have to be an attorney here to work with deeds, to work for the recorder's office, or to be the recorder of deeds. You don't have to be an attorney to be the clerk of Lake County. This is purely an administrative function. This is a 9 to 5. It's open Monday through Friday when it's not a holiday or a special state holiday. This is something that the citizens need. My plan in consolidating this into the clerk's office takes that into mind. I want to have the voters' voice heard on this and get a referendum on the ballot in November. If the referendum's on the ballot, no, I had a time, I'm sorry.
You're now. And then Mr. Blumenthal will give his summary wrap-up first, and each candidate has 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. Again, my experience, my knowledge, my know-how, not only my legal experience, but my accounting background as well, would help me handle the budgetary and accounting function. So I could watch both aspects of the operation of the office, not only from the legal standpoint, but from the fiscal responsibility standpoint as well. Also, I want to make life easy. I want to make it easy for the general public to access the information in the recorder's office without necessarily going to Waukegan unless they so desired. The other aspect of the office is transparency, as I mentioned before. I would like more information on the website so the Freedom of Information Act request would not be necessary to find out the revenues and expenditures of the recorder's office.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar.
I graduated Lewis University in 1979, which is a Jesuit college out in Romeoville, Illinois. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. My parents didn't go to college. My older brother didn't go to college. I have 5 younger brothers and sisters. None of them completed a college education. None of my grandparents went to college. My degree was in accounting and finance. I put that to work in the banking world for the last 30+ years. This is an administrative function. You need somebody that understands numbers, that's been around the block, that knows where to look, to find things. There's a process that's involved here, whether the voters should have a say-so or not. This is an item that's halfway down the ballot. You know, a lot of times when folks go to vote and the ballot is 2 pages long and you're looking at 20 different races, you know, do they really get a chance and an opportunity to kind of find out who the different candidates are and make a good decision? So you're trusting a lot of things when you go to a voter forum or you read a little bit in the newspaper and you're hoping you're making the right decision. I am the best candidate for this job. I've thought about it for a long time. I didn't run out and get signatures right away. I took my time making this decision. I do believe in having the voters more involved here. I think it adds to voter turnout. I think it really helps all the candidates get a better message out there. We're going to see some dramatic changes if we can do these kind of things in the future. I want to kind of set a bar that's a little bit different here. So I hope you'll consider me. Thank you.
Could we please have a really nice round of applause for your candidates? And let me say congratulations to you. You deserve little pats on the back because you are among probably the very few people who will know exactly who at least a couple of the Republican primary candidates are for this race. And so great that we're informing ourselves. Another executive decision, we're going to start about 5 minutes earlier again than what we said on the schedule. So please be back in here by 2:45. I'll be hunting down candidates for the next races. And please grab your candidates and ask them questions out there. It's why they're here. Thank you.